right? It's like two different harmonic languages. Let's move on to our third and final lick here, which is from the more modern side of things. It's from 20 neo-soul improv exercises by Noah here. And this is one where the rhythm, I think, is what really makes this super, super hip to me. So let's take a look. Again, we're like subverting expectations here. So here is our lick. What's cool about this lick is he actually does it in sort of like a Bach two-part invention. He gives it to us in the right hand line. He gives us some left hand chords. And then he flip-flops it over to the left hand, and we get to play that lick in the left hand, which is also something very, very fun to do, is to get this vocabulary into your left hand. I typically practice in like 15-minute chunks, and there was a time where I would leave 15 minutes every day for just left hand lines and vocabulary. So I think that this particular exercise is so hip. So I'll play this for you, and we'll take a look at how this works rhythmically. That I think is what is so hip about this for me. So here's the lick. And we'll take a look in the other hand as well. It's a different flavor, just to hear it again, but in the left hand. Okay, so we are in very, very different harmonic territory. We're more in the neo-soul realm where things are not so functional now, but we're dealing with chords moving in unique and unexpected ways. So if we tune in a little bit more to the harmony, the question is, the chords, we have an F, major 7, A flat, major 7. Okay, those don't really fit into the same key. Nor does G flat major 7, and we have some other chords that are not necessarily all fitting into one key. So we're out of the traditional, what we might call functional or diatonic harmony, where one chord leads to the next, like a 5 chord to a 1 chord, in a particular scale or mode. We're out of that. However, the cohesion comes from a different area, which is that all the chords have the same quality. Major 7 chords moving around in unexpected ways, but the major 7 sound is what ties everything together. So if I play this just as the block chords, it's moving, we could look at the intervals that the roots move. Is it predictable? Not really, which is cool. F up to A flat is a third, down to G flat is a major second, up to B flat is a major third, up to B is a half step, down to A is a whole step. So there's a pretty unique root motion, but what ties it together again is the chord qualities. So you could look at this thing at first glance and go, both that, wow, this looks really complicated, but wow, there's some cohesion within the complications and there's some simplicity. So the entire thing outlines root position major 7 chords. So even though it looks really complicated, I'm trying to make this simple in a way for my brain to get my head around the lick faster. So, right, there's an outline of the lick here. And he's kind of starting on the 7th and then outlining the top part of the chord, always starting from the 7th. And moving those roots in really unique ways.
Hey, Noah here. Just want to let you know really quick that most of the content you're actually seeing on this channel is coming from completely free masterclasses that we've been holding. So if you actually want to join and be a part of those masterclasses, again, it's totally free. Click one of the links in the description that will give you access to free resources, free courses, and of course the free masterclasses. And as soon as you're on the email list, you will be one of the first people to know when we are holding these masterclasses. And on top of that, you get lots of free sheet music and videos and resources as well. So highly recommend you sign up. You can also join our free online community, which is in Discord, in a server there. So you can click the link down there for that as well. And we are on there interacting, hanging out, giving people feedback and advice, as well as on the free masterclasses, Zoom hangs, and feedback sessions. So again, highly recommend you get signed up, and I will see you there.
What is interesting, if you look about how the lick lines up to it, there's sort of an kind of going over, spilling over into different parts of the beat. So if we played a more square version of this, we could go. Right? right? That would be keeping each chord on a beat. For example, we could put F major for the first 2 beats, and then on the third beat, we could put A flat. But Noah displaces the rhythm, and that's one of the things that makes this so hip for me, is he goes 1 E and a 2 we and a. Now he switches on the and of 2 right there. So we're shifting the harmony. Rhythmically, it's an interesting harmony as well. You know, harmonically speaking, it's cool, but also the rhythm, the way it displaces it and gives us this ba, 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 ba. There's a little bit of syncopation built into the line, and even if I didn't play the left hand, we would hear everything we needed. Right? So again, root position, but moving in such unique ways and, you know, arpeggiating different parts of the chord. Really quite a fascinating line here. So when I see a cohesive line like this, and again, for me, the cohesion comes from the chord qualities being the same. A lot of neo-soul writers, you know, Moonchild, great band out of LA, writes kind of stuff like this. Robert Glasper, definitely in the zone. Major 7 chords moving in unpredictable ways. And so then my next question is, well, maybe I could shift the modal aspect of this. So instead of having major 7 chords, maybe I make everything minor 7th chords. Let's take a look at what that looks like in the hands here. So instead of, what if I modal interchanged or mode shifted everything to minor, minor, minor. Okay, so we're keeping the cohesion of all the same roots, but now every chord instead of a major is a minor. Okay, interesting. Wow, that's interesting. What about all dominant chords? Okay, great. What if they were to the point we had about the major 7 flat 5? What if we made them all major 7 flat 5? Okay, let's try that. Right, so we're moving the same shape around, both in the left and the right hand. And once we have that mastered, we can change modally what's going on. You could do dominant flat 5. Wow, we're getting far away from the original harmony now. Wow, that might even be my favorite, you know, flat 5 on the dominant chord. So again, rhythmically, a lot of 16th notes, but they're displaced in a very cool way, and all the chord qualities are the same, but they move in very unusual patterns. So again, always coming back to this idea of something complex and something simple. The greatest lines have a lot that's complex and a lot that coheres together with that cohesion of chord qualities or particular interval relationships. Again, the cohesion here is really striking to me, as well as the variety. I want to turn it over to Noah real quick. I know we're going pretty far over, but I just want to see your take on this, if you had any sort of other aspects.
No, man, I really love what you just portrayed. I really, really love the way you took this lick and demonstrated different contexts and also changing it to fit different molds and actually create different sounds. And actually, the one thing I would just point out is actually, in a sense, we're actually just doing a 1 to 4 progression, right? It's just like major 1 to major 4, and then we use kind of intervallic chordal movement to move around these chords as we kind of get where we're going, basically. So we have, we're basically going F to B flat, right? We're going F major to B flat major, but then we are inserting some non-functional intervallic movements around those. We're almost doing our own little harmonic cells, which is this little concept from my Jazz Piano Secrets course, but basically moving, you know, if we can create these little melodic cells that get us places, well, maybe we can create these little non-functional harmonic cells. And so this is a little harmony pattern where we move outside of the normal key, but it gets us up to B flat and just creates this really interesting sound. But I love what Matt just demonstrated in actually changing the qualities there.
Exactly. And to that point, just kind of wrap up here, you could use this, you have a lot of tunes where you have sort of static harmony, like F major for 2 bars or 4 bars even, right? And if you wanted to go outside, I'm thinking of like Bye Bye Blackbird. It has like 4 bars of F in its most simplest form. Right? So we have 4 bars of F, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Then we have an A minor diminished. So within that, we could insert other chords. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but we could insert other major 7 chords into that basic harmony. So let's see what that sounds like. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, it's like 2 different harmonic languages, one of bebop, one of neo soul, and maybe it was too many chords. Maybe we just insert a couple of those major 7s. But as Noah said, the basic move between the first measure's downbeat and the second measure's downbeat, again, looking at the strong beats, it's functional. F to B flat, functional. So again,
yeah, and I think I love that, Matt. I just want to expand on that really quick. And so I think for me, maybe the only thing that didn't work there is just actually like literally using that kind of non-functional melodic pattern. But if we take that harmonic substitution and made it more bebop-y, then it could actually work better in the context of the tune. So if we did something like, what are these chords? Okay. All right, you know what? That was ridiculously complicated. Maybe a little bit overkill, as Matt said. But I think the point being, if we can tie things in with language, I would have to practice that for a second. But if we can tie things in with language, then we can get some really, really interesting sounds. And I think that's what we hear a lot of modern players do, is actually take something like this and apply it to one of those spaces in a standard. And if the language works together, right? If you're not going to play this lick and then suddenly just go to straight Bud Powell bebop, then it can work really, really well. So that that's why it's, for me, I don't love when someone's like playing a solo and then all of a sudden they just suddenly become McCoy Tyner. They were playing bebop and then they suddenly become McCoy Tyner. It can be cool, but for me that's like an example of we're almost taking 2 different styles of language and just randomly throwing them in. But if on the other hand you're building on some fourth-based, chordal sounds in your improvisation, then that all kind of living in that McCoy Tyner cohesive world. So I think there's, just something to be said when you use these exercises. The kind of first step that I think all of us do when we're studying them as students is kind of just come out of nowhere and I'm just going to throw this in. But kind of the next step to make it sound a little bit more professional would be like, all right, I'm not going to play this exact lick necessarily unless this is also matching some of the other language that I'm doing in the song. Hopefully that made sense.
Really well said, Noah. Yeah, absolutely. Having, again, cohesion between the different dialects of this language that you're speaking is very important. And so, yeah, if you played something like this, you would want the other language around it to be more modern as well in some way or another. Again, this, of course, coming from the 20 Neo Soul improv exercises. Noah, I saw you linked to that there for the full PDF. Great stuff. Thanks so much for sharing your licks with us today.